So Michael Langer is the co-founder and managing partner at T-Rex Capital.
I've been very lucky. I grew up in the life science sector my whole life. One was a material sciences company called Semprus Biosciences. And then I worked for Living Proof, which is a hair product startup. I also worked for a video game startup that was called Akili Interactive Labs, which ultimately got the first FDA approval for a video game specifically for the treatment of ADHD. I ended up at Pear Therapeutics. Pear was a great place to start my career. Pear really was pushing forward the boundaries of how we think about software and medicine. Pear grew super fast. I was employee 20 and we grew to about 350 people. But unfortunately, the market wasn't really ready for it. I still think that there's a lot of promise in digital therapeutics because the evidence really is there with the clinical data. But I think a lot has to happen with the business model to work. The goal of the new fund that we're creating is all about the intersection of software, health, and biology. About 5 years ago, our family created a small fund called Old Silver VC, where we did deep tech and biotech and health tech deals. One of the stats that I think we're probably most proud of is out of my father's lab. There's been students and they're now professors at 400 different universities. And so that's allowed us to
Wow.
see quite a bit of work and be able to have a really incredible way of diligencing opportunities as well. He has about 1,400 pending or issued patents.
Did you say
Uh,
1,400? That's amazing.
he himself has co-founded about 40 companies. 27 of them have exited via M&A or IPO. The most successful of those is Moderna. And they've actually estimated that about 2 billion patients have been impacted by those inventions that my father has been involved. I think there's a lot of really interesting ways that people are thinking about funding. And one company that I advise called Molecule, I think is interesting how they're working on tokenizing IP out of academia and
Mm,
doing crowdfunding to be able to fund that. I think a big part of all this is storytelling. That's how any company even gets
mm,
venture funding, right? We're all essentially a product that is being marketed into the world. So I think in biotech specifically, there's a lot of that. And storytelling has not generally been something I think in biotech, at least from a public point of view, that we've been able to prioritize a lot. Very proud of what we've done with Superhuman Body. It'll ultimately go into 150 theaters, and we estimate that in lifetime, about 40 million people will actually see the film. The IMAX production firm that I've worked with, McGilver Freeman Films,
mm.
they've really done an incredible job in the space. They've done 43 IMAX films. They did Everest, the largest, most successful IMAX film ever created, and a number of
Wow.
other. If you
Mm.
hyper or do these things in a way to do this to be able to be significant in terms of time management, I think that's really the way to manage these kinds of things well. The biggest thing is getting up early. I try to get up at 5 or 5:30 every day.
Mm.
Try to sleep by 9:30. I try not to eat more than twice a day, and I try
Mm.
to have it be pre-made meals, so I don't have to spend time making food. Things like that, like basically massive, aggressive planning. Creativity is another one that's super important. How do people think about things outside of the box? Third is adaptability and being entrepreneurs that take feedback well, that are seeing a problem and are able to pivot. I guess the fourth special bonus is their ability to interact with people. I think that really matters a lot in terms of culture, in terms of being
Mm.
able to maintain talent, being able to work with their investors. So I think people skills becomes exceptionally important, especially for the CEO in
Mm.
terms of their ability to be successful as an entrepreneur. I would say that the most important piece that I think people don't talk about as much on AI, but probably the most important piece is the data that's being used. I think right
Yes.
now we're seeing a lot of interesting and exciting aspects to the biotech industry in AI. And I think over the last 5 years, there's definitely been some strides, but I don't think that we've yet seen probably enough progress in terms of what that can do in terms of impact in the space. But I think there is an enormous amount of potential. And there's no question that it will be a huge part of what we're going to be doing in the industry. Winston Churchill says, success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the
Mm.
courage to continue to count.
And I think what's important is people don't always ask. They only see the successes because of our social media culture.
For me, I felt like I wasn't really happy in school and getting much out of it, and so I wanted to do something very different. And so
Mm.
I moved to Fiji, actually teaching English in a small village, and then I went to New Zealand backpacking, and then I went back to
Wow.
Fiji, and then I went to Alaska to do backpacking, and then taught English in Thailand and Laos. For me, these are
Mm.
very seminal experiences of growth that helped me, I think, evolve more as a person. I get most excited about the personalization of all these things. I think
Mm.
the more that we can have things attuned to specific people, I think the more impact we can have. Relationship management is probably my best superpower. Maybe forever memory. I think if you could
Mm.
remember everything, that would be pretty fascinating.